Hilchos Yom HaKippurim Perek Gimel Halacha Dalet. The koish loshen zoheres, he ties the red, the loshen, the piece of wool, mishkal shtei sloim, which weighs shtei sloim. Let's go down to the Peirush. In the Peirush it says, it's a Mishnah. You place it on the head of the soil that's going to be sent away. It's a Mishnah Yuma. He would tie the tongue of wool, the on the head of the goat which is going to be sent out to the desert, which we call the scapegoat. They would place it by the door where it's supposed to be sent. The Rambam, in his explanation to the Mishnah, explains Loshen Zoheres is a piece of wool which has been combed and it's red. It's plain. It has been dyed red. Zoheres means red, as the Rambam says, Al Telas Shoni B'Tzeva Zoher, which means in a red color, or paint, or dye. V'yodua, it's known Shetelas Shoni Hoisa B'Tzeva Odon, and everybody knows that the Telas Shoni was red. It's Loshen Tzema Azeh. This tongue of wool, it was tied to the head of the soil that was sent out to the desert between its horns, as explained in the Gemara there. And we'll learn in Halacha Zayin that the Rambam wants to come to mention that it was through the horns and how much it weighed, and the Gemara is a machlokes how much it weighed. And he passes like the one who says that it's mishkal shtei sloim. And he would send the soil next to the place where he would send it from there, through the person who was designated to the place called Azazel. And he would place the one that's supposed to be slaughtered where he's going to be slaughtered. This is the Loshen Mishnah Yuma. In 41b, the Mido, he would place it Keneged base Shiluchai, opposite the place where it's going to be sent, and to be slaughtered where it's supposed to be slaughtered. The Gemara is not sure what does Beis Shchitosei mean. What does it mean where it's supposed to be slaughtered? It doesn't mean that he ties a wool around the soya that's going to be slaughtered where it's going to be slaughtered, just like he does by the soya that's going to be sent to the Azazel. Or does it mean that he places the soya that's going to be slaughtered where it's supposed to be slaughtered in the courtyard? The Gemara proves this point from a brisa. He says that for the soya that was slaughtered, there was also a red tongue of wool that was placed on its neck in the place where it's going to be slaughtered. As the Mishnah points out that the Rambam uses the language of the Mishnah instead of explaining, and he doesn't explain that it means around the neck, like the conclusion of the Gemara. The Hilchos Mishnah is of the opinion that the Rambam says the halacha is that you place it in around the neck of the soil. Meaning he uses an ambiguous language here, which could mean either, and he therefore concludes so that they'll see which soya is supposed to go to the desert. That's the one that has it between its horns. Which soya is supposed to go to the slaughtered? It's around the neck. The Peirush disagrees and explains that the intent of the Rambam is not to tie it around the neck, but rather he places it in the place where it's going to be slaughtered to the north of the northern portion of the Mizbeach. And the reason is that in the sugya, the discussion there in the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan is mentioned. It says there were 3 times that I heard halacha regarding tongues of wool. One is by the parah, and one is by the soya, amishtaleyach, and and one is by Mitzvah. The Pura is Pura Aduma. One is 10 zuz, and one is 2 sloim, and one is a shekel. So Taisus questions over there. Why didn't Rabbi Yochanan mention the wool tongue for the inner goat that's going to be slaughtered? When it's going to be slaughtered, and the blood is going to be brought inside. And he answers that soya that's slaughtered, that you tie it to, is only they should recognize it. It is not, they shouldn't get confused. And that's not called a need. Therefore, it doesn't matter how much it weighs. But those three that I mentioned by Rabbi Yochanan, since there's a need to know, and it's an integral part of the service, they have a measure. The Pri Chodesh explains that the Rambam disagrees with Taisus. It is the opinion, since Rabbi Yochanan doesn't mention the goat, the inner goat, from this we understand that the words of the Mishnah are talking about not the wool around the neck, but rather the place where you place the inner goat, the goat that the blood is going to go inside, where it will be slaughtered. The Pri Chodesh cites the question of the Rosh in the Seder of the service in the Yom Kippur. The Baal Pi, it says Ato Kein Anto, and there he writes Yamidenu Keneged Beish Chitoso. You place it in the opposite the place where it's going to be slaughtered. The Gemara conclusion is that you place it around the neck. And therefore, how come the liturgy says at the place? And the Pri Chodesh says the Rambam is also the opinion of Ato Kein Anto. You place it where it's going to be slaughtered, and they did not tie around the neck a tongue of wool. The Baal Merkevas HaMishkan also answers like the Pri Chodesh, and he infers from the language of the Rambam. The Mishnah writes on the Soya Mishalech Ve'amidoi. He places it next to where it's going to be sent from, the doorway. Rambam writes Amidoin, and he places it V'lanishchad where it's going to be slaughtered. That means, just like the soya mishalech is set in a certain place, that's what we're talking about, where the soya is being placed, and we're not discussing the wool. Beis Yosef, in his Hagor, his notes to the avodah, to the order of the avodah of the one who wrote the liturgy of Ato Kein Anto, points out, I should say, that they would tie the tongue of the wool around the neck, like the Kesef Mishnah mentions. The Rambam would actually conclude according to the final decision of the Gemara. In Sefer HaMoriah, he writes that it could be the Rambam is of the opinion like the Python, the liturgist who wrote Ato Kein Anto. We mentioned earlier it's Yossi ben Yossi, the Kohen Gadol. It should be pointed out that before the Rambam wrote that when it came to concluding the name, he also wrote the Titoru, even though it's not written in the Gemara, and the Chidor writes that it's because he took it from Yossi ben Yossi Kohen Gadol, the one who wrote the order of the liturgy of Ato Kein Anto. And he slaughters the Parachatos HaShaloi. Then he slaughters, after he's done this slaughtering, he then slaughters his bull, the one of the Kohen Gadol, for which all of his Kohen Gadol sins are forgiven, and the soya Hashem, and the soya that went on at the Goyal Hashem. And Sefer HaMoriah says it doesn't mean that he would do them one after the other, because we'll see later that there was a break between the slaughtering of bringing the incense inside, and then they would spray the blood of the par, and only then they would do the shchita of the soya outside.